Hey there, Chad here. Thanks for joining me. This is Cataclysm Dark Days Ahead, and this is another installation of my getting started tutorial for this game. This is an extremely complicated game, and we are just getting started. The premise of the game is that you just want to survive. It's a survival game, right? And it is turn-based. Time isn't passing necessarily unless we're actually actively doing something. But it isn't clear what you should do in order to survive. We could just run around this little building we're in, and every time we hit a button, a little bit of time passes. You'll notice here that is time. It's 8 o'clock. It's a little bit after 8 o'clock, but each time I hit a key, that's going to advance just a little bit. Time is passing. We are going to need to be fed. We're going to need water. We're going to need the ability to sleep. And we need, obviously, shelter. So where we're at right now, we did the evacuee scenario. We are in an evacuation shelter. Specifically, we're in shelter B5, B05. And next to us, this person right here, that is Lauren. They are another survivor that happens to be in here. Now you'll notice that some of these squares are more gray. That's because it's dark where we're at right now. So the first thing I want to do is move around and open some curtains to let in some light so that we can see just a little better. We can see what's outside and around us. A lot of things that we're going to need to do, we're going to need light. So that's part of the reason we're going to do that. In order to open a curtain, I just walk up to one and I run into it. That will open it. And now I can see outside and the light can come in. As we move around, you'll notice there is a sort of fog of war sort of thing and a line of sight. The brighter squares here are things I can actually see. These are things I can't really see right now, but would be visible to me if I move around some. If I wanted to open that window, I could move into it again and it would open, and then I could actually crawl through that window as well. I'm going to choose to keep that window closed for now. So I'm going to hit C, and that's a lowercase c. I will try to be very consistent. If I say a letter, it is lowercase. I will try to say capital otherwise. So lowercase c, so C will close that window, and it's closed right now. I'm going to go ahead and open the rest of the curtains here. There's a couple of doors that we're going to open eventually, but for now we're just going to stay inside. And we are able to walk over most things like countertops and things like that. However, you'll notice when you do that, moving on this cupboard is slow. A little more time is going to pass when I do that as opposed to if I were moving in the open, and I kind of like that idea. Open this one, open this one. We've already got that one. That might be all of them. Okay, so we're in a decent sized room here. Actually, I do have one more. Now this is a wall, that's why I can't pass right through that. But things that are not walls, you generally can just climb right over. There we go, that's everything now. And so we see some benches here. Now one thing, anything we put our mouse on, it's going to tell us what it is. So as I put my mouse there, you'll notice in the upper right corner, there's floor, and then there's also bench. If we roll over here, it's white wall. If we roll over here, it's going to say locker. Here it should say like cupboard. This will say, we can't see that, so it's not going to tell us. Here it says window with curtains, closed wood door. Okay, so just to give you some idea there. As we moved around here a little bit, you probably saw these ellipses, and what that means, and also there's a little icon here. I didn't catch that right away because I was tending to play in like this mode. It's a little further out, not quite as sharp. When we're zoomed into the closest, you can see that icon a little better. But what these basically mean is there's something in here. And in order to see what's in there, we can hit the G key, G to grab or get, and it asks us what direction we want to go. And it gives us these highlights to show us where we might want to do that. So I could hit the northeast or 9 on my keypad, or I could hit the 6 for east. I'm going to hit that. And then it shows us what is inside. So this is the typical interface of this game. Things you're going to do are going to open up these text menus, and you can navigate through those with arrow keys. Often you cannot use your keypad to navigate up and down in these screens. That's just something to be aware of. And not everything in these is necessarily immediately useful. I have not figured out what plastic forks and plastic knives are for. Tupperware does seem to have a little bit of a use. You can store things in it, and you can put that in your pocket then, and it sort of gives you some extra space in a sense. These wrappers, how this breaks down, what this means is we see 2 wrappers, and those wrappers each contain a protein ration that is cold, and I think the hidden means it's hidden because it's inside the wrapper. Okay, so just so you have kind of an understanding of how this parses out. We will see other things that will kind of list out this way as well. including when we look at our own inventory, you'll see some interesting things like that. Real quick, let's go back up to where our good buddy Lauren is. We don't actually know Lauren. They happen to be at this evac shelter as well. But let's talk about a couple of the other important key commands. So again, to move around, I'm using my keypad, and it's the directional arrows on the keypad effectively. And it's the 4 cardinal directions and then the diagonals as well. The exclamation point means that this is something I can interact with. You'll see that on like animals as well. I'm not sure if you see it on monsters. I can't recall if it's on monsters or not. Usually I'm running from monsters, not so much trying to pay attention to what it shows. So we will probably see some of that soon enough. So how do I interact with the world? A couple of things to know. If you hit enter, and this is your standard enter key on the keyboard part, you will get this list of actions. Let's see. Actually, either enter key will do that. The keypad one will as well. So it tells me I can examine stuff around me. In this case, the examine is I can talk to Lauren because that's the only interactable object that I'm standing next to right now. It can ask me if I want to look at something. I can look around. I can peek around corners. I can list all items around me. There's a zones manager. I don't have any idea what that is. I can look at my map. I can look at the sky, except we're inside. It won't do anything. I can go back to the previous menu. So this gives you some idea of the different ways you can interact with the game. Now, rest assured, you don't have to go through this menu every time you want to do something. We can get to this, and it helps in this manner. Most of the things we're going to want to do in the game are keyboard commands. As I mentioned earlier, there was the G. Now, I'm not in range of anything that can be grabbed, so G does nothing except give me this message down here that says there's nothing to pick up nearby. It says ×2 because I hit it twice. If I hit it a third time, a fourth time, you can see what's happening there. Examine is going to do the same thing. There's nothing to examine. I hit it twice. I hit it 3 times. So that's just some things to be aware of. So what we want to do right now is we do need to make sure we have food. We're in the evacuation shelter, and what I can tell you is we have food. Oh, this is an alternate way to move. I can double click, basically. Click once to highlight, click a second time, and he'll move there. I choose not to do that, at least not very often. I do it little enough that I had forgotten you could do it. How's that sound? So, but let's go and look and see what's in some of these lockers, just so we have a better understanding of what is available to us immediately. Okay, there are not a lot of lockers in this place. There's some of the buildings you'll start in might have like as many as like 9 or 10 of these, and that can be important because there's a few things that you can do with lockers that is random, and we may not have good luck when we try to do those things, so we'll have to see. But I'm going to hit G for grab, and I'm going to go to the top one here, this one right here. I think I can click on it. Nope, I can't click on it. It doesn't do anything. But we're going to look at that one. So northeast. It has an emergency blanket. It has an evacuation pamphlet, a flashlight. I'm going to take the flashlight, and we'll do that in a moment. It has a battery. I'm going to take the battery. I don't know what these do. I'm going to skip the whistle, and I do need food, but I know where the food is if it's in this locker, so I'm going to leave it there. And over time, we may want to find a locker that we like consolidate all the food and put it all in one spot or something like that. But for now, we're not going to do that. Now, I mentioned I want to pick up the flashlight. There's 2 ways for me to do that. I am using the arrow keys right now. Okay, and up and down is how you navigate. I can also hit a letter. If I hit C, you'll notice the plus sign next to the flashlight. That means that I have selected that to pick up. And that's great. I did that by hitting C. The other way I can do this is I can go to the line and I can hit the right arrow key and it will add it. If I hit the right arrow key a second time, it will remove it. Add it, remove it. And then the same with the flashlight, hitting C multiple times or hitting my arrow key will add that. So I want the flashlight and the disposable battery. There's one other I want to show you because it's confusing. I've seen a lot of forum and Reddit entries where people don't get this and it's not clear. First of all, most of the screens tell you everything you can do in some way or another. Some of them will have like really obvious places. To pick X items, type a number before selecting. What does that mean? Well, there's 3 items here. There's 3 wrappers. What if I only want one of those? It says to pick X items, type a number before selecting. Okay, so I'm going to type 1. Nothing happened. What's going on? Well, now after hitting 1, I need to hit the right arrow. You'll notice instead of a plus sign, it's giving me a number sign. And what that says is you've selected a part of the stack, not the entire stack. So on the right side here, items I'm picking up, it says I'm picking up one of the 3 wrappers. Looks exactly like what you would expect, knowing that that's what this means. Again, most screens will tell you things like this, but it can be a little confusing as to how to make that actually function. This does use the standard right arrow. I can remove it by hitting right arrow. I could re-add it by hitting right arrow again. We're going to leave it alone for now. Just leave it there. And we're just going to take the flashlight and the battery. So I'm going to hit enter. And now if I look at my own inventory, just to make it clear that that's what we're doing, I'm going to move up here and I'm going to hit I. And this is going to open the inventory screen. So if we look at the inventory, we have a flashlight. We have a smartphone. We have a disposable battery. So the 2 things we picked up were the flashlight and the battery just now. And those are now listed in our inventory. On the right side, it shows us what we're holding as a weapon, and it shows us anything we're wearing. And this is important. Now you'll notice this blue arrow here. What's that? What's that doing? This is telling us, so our cursor right now is on flashlight. If I hit up and down, what it is telling us is the flashlight is in the utility vest. Whatever's highlighted, it will show you where it is being stored on your person. So all 3 of these items are in our utility vest, and if you look at the utility vest, it says that there are 3 items in it. It has 2.5 liters of space remaining, and it can carry up to 16 more pounds. I'm pretty sure that that's what all that means. Maximum length of any item that you put in it is 7 inches. Very detailed information. If we want it to look at one of these, we can highlight it and hit enter, and it will give us details about that item on the left side of the screen. Literally tells you all of the properties of the item, the materials it's made out of, how large it is, its length. You'll notice it's 5 inches, which means it will fit comfortably in our utility vest, which allows up to 7 inches. The owner is my follower, so I don't know what that is other than there are factions in the game, and I'm going to assume that that's what that refers to. This is considered a tool, which makes sense. Gives a description of it. Tells us the types of items that are compatible with it, basically the batteries that we can use in it. So we have a light battery right now, and that's what's on. Actions that can be done, it can be turned on. Notice I am clicking on this, nothing is happening. It doesn't actually do these actions here, it just tells us what we can do. It can be turned into flashlight on. So right now it's flashlight off. Okay, so the state is it's turned off. If we turn it on, it will turn into flashlight on, and it will provide us light. We'll use it here in just a minute. There's the various ways to repair it, what we need to repair it. If we disassemble it, it tells us stats about that, what we would get from it. This can be important, although I haven't run into it yet. It conducts electricity. Might be important to know in the future. It can be clipped to a belt loop, so we can be hands-free with our flashlight. It will get broken if it is submerged in water while turned on. Okay, and then things it can be stored in. This literally lists everything it can be stored in. And finally, when you're bartering with it, its price is considered to be $5 or $1, depending on if you're buying or selling, I guess. But buying would be the expensive one, right? Secondly, we have a list of things we can do with said item. So we've selected flashlight. We could activate the flashlight. If I do that, it is now your flashlight off. Has 0 charges, but needs 1, okay? Well, I haven't put a battery in it yet. I forgot to do that. So let's go back and look at the flashlight one more time. But these other things I could do, I could wield it. That'll put it in my hand. I could throw it. I could drop it. Reload. That's what we want to do, actually. We want to reload it. So I want to reload it, and now it has a battery in it. It knew to put the battery in because it was the only thing that I had on my person or that was nearby that made sense. So it just went ahead and did it. If there are more than one item, it will give you a list and ask you which one you want to use. The game does have a radius where it considers these things are things you could use. I think it's 6 spaces when you're crafting and things like that. Anything it can find within 6 spaces, it considers in your inventory, at least for the moment, for doing crafting or reloading and things like that. Let's go back to the inventory and back to this. And now if I hit A for activate, you'll notice all that dark space went away because the flashlight is now on and I can see everywhere. I'm going to turn it back off because it does use batteries and we don't want to waste the batteries because we are in a post-apocalyptic world. We don't know how many batteries are out there. To do that, I'm going to hit A again and just click it and it turned it off. I could also just use the arrow key, or I'm sorry, hit enter on it, and that would turn it on or off as well. To get out of a screen like this that you don't want to do anything with, you hit escape. There we go. Okay, so this has been almost 17 minutes and we haven't actually done anything yet, and we are going to wrap this video up. Basically, I think it's important to understand some of the keys of how the game works. And so knowing your inventory, knowing how to grab things, and seeing some of the basics of how you manipulate things, I think have been important. We're going to cover one or two more things very quickly, and then in the next episode, we'll actually start moving around and figuring out what the heck we need to do. Real quick, I wanted to once again point out that actions menu when you hit enter that had these different things that you can do. One thing on there is view help, and if you hit that, what you will see is there are quite a few categories that you can read about. I'm going to hit introduction, and it basically tells you what the game is about. Okay, and that's good. We can go back. How do we move? We hit B, and you'll notice there's your setup. But as you can see, this does give you some really good information. Also, the tutorial, when we were at the main screen, if you go to specials, there's a tutorial, and that will walk you through some very basic things like grab and examine and things like that. It does flow pretty well. It doesn't tell you how to play the game, though. It just shows you how to use a few of the systems. And so that is something to know. The last thing I wanted to talk about here in this video is we want to know something about ourselves. If you chose the play now and didn't customize your character, you don't know even what your name is by looking at this screen necessarily. The character sheet is the @ sign, so Shift 2, and that will bring this up, and it gives you information about yourself. You can modify your character by hitting Y. Again, this is one of those situations where it tells you the specialized items. So Y is customize your character. Question mark is always, I think it's always key bindings. The web page said you hit that to get help, but really it's just the key bindings everywhere I've seen it. There are some commands here. If you want to change your key bindings, you can do that. But we hit tab to move between the different sections. If we want to look at anything, it'll give us some kind of specifics about that area. Down here is our skills. It tells you when these particular skills are used. A little bit about our traits. I don't know if we can change those or not. We may be able to with the customized character. And then finally, proficiencies. I don't have any proficiencies yet. As we start doing things in the world, I will start to build these up, and we will talk about those as we start to see them. I think that gets you started with at least moving around and seeing what you can do. Next episode, we will start to collect some goods and do a little bit of crafting and see where we might be able to go to improve our lot in life. Until then, though, I thank you for watching this time, and until next, fair travels.